the way.
We're wanted men. I have spoken.
Welcome to episode 221 of the Smugglers Galaxy podcast, your favorite Star Wars podcast for smugglers in the galaxy. It's pre-Thanksgiving week. Jason, did you gain any weight? Post-Thanksgiving week. I didn't gain too much weight over Thanksgiving. How about you, Jason?
I don't think so, but I'm not going to step on the scale and confirm that.
Exactly. I was woken up Thanksgiving morning by a turkey at my front door.
Oh, right. Me. I was like, oh, this is going to be an interesting story, but no, it's not. It's just me.
It's just Jason.
It's just me. My mom went to New York earlier this year in October, and she bought a bunch of apples for me, like a whole brown bag worth of apples. And there was like 6 or 7 variety of apples in there, like from Granny Smith to Cortland to Snapdragon to Honeycrisp to Red Delicious to Macintosh to Fiji. I don't know which ones they were, but there's a lot in there. And I cut them up. Long story short, cut them up, froze them, and then it's Thanksgiving, so I pulled them out and I started making pies. And I only need 1 pie, and I had 4. So you got one, Jordan got one, my mom got one, and I got one.
Awesome.
And thankfully, I had mine last night. It was good. The last thing I wanted to do was to give someone a bad pie.
Mandy said it was good. I hadn't had a piece of it yet.
It's good.
I don't want to hurt your feeings, but apple isn't my favorite. I like a pecan, but I just haven't gotten around to it. I was going to try it.
It's pecan. Look at you. You just deflated.
Yeah. So I was going to try it in your honor. I just haven't gotten around to it yet because I had to work yesterday and that sucked. First time in like 20 years I had to work Black Friday. Yeah.
The good with the bad.
Huh?
The good with the bad.
The good with the bad. Yep. Like I said, I'd rather be mad 1 day a year than 365.
Right.
But anyway, I like that shirt you got on, Jason.
Thank you. It's I guess we'll call it the 2025 Georgia Alliance of Star Wars Collector shirts. I have a shirt that's just like it. I got it from Sears. And it's like this very vectory, geometric version of all the characters from Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
And I actually have a Marvel one too. But when we were over at Terry's, I think Susan was the one asking, where'd you get that shirt from? And I started looking at it. I'm like, this is easy to make. I should make a variation of that. And made a Cantina one. So if you go to the T Public store for the Georgia Alliance of Star Wars Collector, GASWC, you can grab your Cantina shirt.
Yeah. It looks all nice.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Do you pick anything up over the Thanksgiving week?
Yeah, I picked up a couple things. The first thing is I went to Ross to see if they had any of the retro collection figures. And they actually had this neon sign that's over my shoulder that says Star Wars, but it's so bright right now that it's just burning out the camera and it just looks like a blue haze.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure I want to keep it in that spot. It's got a cord that goes behind the TV, so it's a nice location. Like I don't have to run extension cords.
Right. Yeah, it just looks like a big old blue haze.
But it does say Star Wars, and that's what all the kids are doing these days. They're getting these neon signs with LEDs. They make it look like it's neon, but it's just LEDs.
Mm-hmm.
But I picked that up and pulling up my notes.
Oh, I really do need to start keeping notes. I try, and then we never use them, and then I get aggravated and don't keep them anymore.
The pressure of putting on a good show just cancels out my thoughts, and then I can't remember what I got this week.
Right.
But I did get the retro collection, Chrysanthemum and Luke Skywalker from the Book of Boba Fett, so I have all the Book of Boba Fett retro figures.
Nice.
I had to pick those up on Hasbro Pulse, but that's fine. rather get it than search every freaking Ross for two figures that they might have or might not have because it's
Right.
been,
It gets to a point where it's diminishing returns.
yeah, and it's spotty. It's like this one might have four different Cad Banes. This one has a bent up Tuscan. This one has, it's like they don't all get the collection. They just get one of this character and four of this one character.
It feels like I think they just kind of throw them in bins, and whatever gets thrown in the bin, they know they got to send six Star Wars characters to this place. So whatever they grab and throw in a bin, that's what they get.
Yeah. And then I did go to a Target and they had the Mandalorian commander guy. He was piloting a ship in season 3,
Uh
Grogu, and then Thrawn for the vintage collection. So I bought all three and I came home and I realized that I had two of them.
huh. That's the worst.
So I took two back.
Good for you. Yeah. Shoot, I picked up the talkback chopper came in. I thought it was
Yeah.
going to come. It was supposed to come in on Wednesday, and I was like, cool, I'll get to play with it during Thanksgiving. And it didn't. I just kept watching it get later and later and later in the day, and then you go to bed, and it's still, oh, it'll still be there. And it gets to like 10 o'clock, so we go to bed, and next thing you know, they're like, oh, it'll be here Friday. So I had it for all of like 5 minutes last night, and haven't really picked it up this morning to see. But you could talk. There's no instructions to it. It's just like you turn it on this way, and it's like, well, what do you tell Chopper? What do you tell him to get him to do stuff? But he'll do stuff, and you get to tell him hi, and it sounds like he says hi back. Yeah, it's like womp, 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 womp,
Whoa.
womp.
Chopper, go murder that person. Oh,
Yeah,
bird.
I need to say that. Um, so I got to play with it some more today, and I got Fig Biz, or that looks like Toy Biz, that they did a run of Bill and Ted figures, and homeboy, the guy that had it, I've been able to get a bunch of stuff off this one guy off eBay, and he threw up the first shot, it's 3D printed. I could tell it's a very well 3D, a very well done like hand painted 3D print from China of Death. So I was able to pick that up. So it came with a little box, a little like styrofoam case for it, where they had cut everything out and had in the top to it has got the picture of the figure, which everything that should be in the box in it, and it's got Japanese writing all over it. So it's a pretty cool piece, and you could definitely tell when you compare it to the production figure that this cape on the production figure is bendable, where this one is really, it's not. And if you look really close at like the head and the feet and stuff, you could see the lines of a 3D printer. So
That's awesome.
it's a cool piece, and I'm excited. I had messaged the guy and I was like, hey, I bought all the other Bill and Ted pieces from you, and if you don't like my offer, please send me another one, or please give me the chance to buy it, because I need to have it, because I need to complete the collection of at least these figures. So then I've got the phone booth, I've got Bill and Ted, and then I got Death, and they're all like 3D resin printed, hand painted hard copies. Which are would it be a hard copy or a first shot at that point? Probably a hard copy.
It's 3D printed. And it's a new way, because typically like a first shot is the first shot in a mold, and that doesn't even go in a mold yet.
Right.
Because the way they do figures now is different. They sculpt it in ZBrush and then they print it out. And so what is that first print? Is that the hard copy? Is that the first shot?
I don't know, because I guess it would be, I don't know, David, message us, let us know what it would be.
I mean,
David
I'd
Quinn.
I'd be comfortable calling it a 3D printed prototype.
Yeah, that's what I think they're all 3D printed. But you can all tell they're hand painted, and yeah, it's whatever the modern version of a hard copy is, I guess.
Yeah.
Would be the right way to put it. But yeah, it's a 3D printed hand painted piece. And
you sank my battleship.
yeah, and it came with even the football game, you could tell is resin, and then because it also came with the football game, and it came with a twister mat,
Mm-hmm.
and the twister mat's only got like one circle on it. So it's like they just took a twister mat and cut it up and threw it in the box, just to give it a feel. And the arms come up. It comes apart very easily because the one in my wife was kind of like, oh, it's broken. And I'm like, these things aren't made to play with. They're made to check out, make sure everything works, and they normally will break because stuff happens to them. And but she on one of the other figures I got, she had to re-glue the hand. So she's like, "Oh, I'll mess with it later." So when she feels the need, I'll get her to re-glue the hand onto it because the post, because it came with the post is still in the arm, and it came with a couple of heads. It came with an alternate sculpt of the head and two different hands. That's the only thing that's different from the production figure is it had an alternate different head, two heads. Then production figure did not have two heads, but it's cool to add to the Bill and Ted lore.
That is a funny scene in the movie when they decide to play death and they choose board games and he keeps losing.
2 out of 3, 3 out of 4, 5 out of 7.
Yeah.
I need
It's
to
a good
break that movie back out.
it's a good movie. It's I think a lot of people didn't like Bogus Journey because it's a little bit darker and sillier in some ways,
Mhm.
but it's still good.
Yeah.
I just wish they didn't wrap it up in a nice bow because kind of goes against what happens in the third movie.
Yeah. See, I need to see that. I guess I need to watch it from that point. The third movie, I enjoy. It took me Faces of Music took me 2 watchings to really get it because we'd seen it. It came out in the middle of the pandemic. We went to a theater to see it, and I was all excited about it, and then it kind of fell flat. But then when I watched it 6 months later at home, it resonated better with me because you kind
Yeah,
of go ahead.
no, go ahead, finish.
No, you just put so much hype on it. And you're like, you're hoping there's so much hope for this movie to be awesome, and it was okay. You know what I mean? And then when you see it again, you're like, oh, it's not that bad of a movie.
Yeah, it's a movie that came out in theaters 30 years too late.
Yeah,
I don't think it would be I don't think it'd be I think it would be just considered a classic at this point if it came out, like I said, 30 years ago.
right.
But it's just a sequel that's just like why? And it's funny, it's silly. I like when they, bulk up and become the
Mhm.
prison bros. And I like how they instead of gathering historical figures, they gather historical artists, musicians to play in their band.
Yeah, and it's their daughter. I mean, it was different because it was their daughters doing it versus them, and everybody. When the movie came out, they were all like, "Well, everybody they had boys, they didn't have girls." At the end of Bogus Journey, and then it's a throwaway line. The dad looks at him and goes, "You remember when you used to call him Little Bit and Bill and Little Ted?" And it just fixes everything.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, maybe they wanted boys and they didn't get boys. So they just decided to call them Little Bill and Little Ted. And
Yeah, but yeah,
that's
that was
funny.
shot in New Orleans. If
Nolans.
Nolans,
Nolans to the locals.
yeah. So yeah, I need to rewatch it. I know that every now and again they'll pop up. It feels like it's like that the Bill and Ted's trilogy and the Back to the Future trilogy kind of bounces back and forth on the streaming channels. So
Mhm.
the one that sometimes they're there, sometimes they're not. And you know, I guess you got to watch them when they're there. I
Uh,
did watch speaking of movies, watch a Twister the other night or
Twisters,
Twisters.
like aliens. I made a joke about that
Yeah.
on
It
Facebook.
wasn't a bad movie. I mean, um, it was fun. It was a fun waste of 2 hours. I had nothing to complain about. I mean, it was, they did throw a love story in there, which it seems like every movie's got to have a love story, right?
Yeah, I think every movie needs to have a kiss.
There you go. Did they kiss in the? No, they didn't kiss, did they?
I don't remember
I don't want
because
to give them. I don't
I
want to
saw
give
it
it.
in May,
Yeah.
but I thought it was good. I mean, I wish there was characters that showed up from the first movie, but at least the Dorothy shows up, and
Hmm.
I thought Glenn Powell was charismatic.
Which one was he? The cowboy?
Yeah, he's the cowboy.
Okay.
And then it was interesting because who had the guy in the white shirt that was trying to sell everything? He was trying to buy pieces of property so they can flip it and make money, but he was part
Yeah.
of the team.
The guy that was paying the money or the guy that was the second
The,
in command?
the second in command.
Okay.
He's the
He
new
kind of
super.
looked, huh?
He's the new Superman.
Okay. I kept looking at him going, that dude looks like Superman or looks like Harry, the guy who originally played Superman.
Christopher
Um,
Reeves,
no. The new
Hen-
guy that plays
Henry
Superman.
Cavill,
Huh?
Henry Cavill.
Henry Cavill. He looked, I was like, dude, that looks like that guy that played Superman.
Yeah,
So then that makes sense as to why I kept looking at him going, that's Superman.
yeah, he's the new Superman
Okay. So I
in the new.
wasn't going crazy.
No, no, but it was just cool to see him act because I want to know what I'm getting. Superman is one of my favorite characters.
Right. So is there a new movie coming out of Superman?
Yeah, next summer.
Okay. Oh
I
yeah, there
may
is. Huh?
I may or may not have friends who are in the makeup industry who knew people who've seen the trailer,
Ooh.
and the people said the trailer's pretty awesome. But then there was a rumor this week that the studio wasn't happy with the trailer and they want it recut. So I don't know who to believe.
Jeez.
It's just a teaser at this point. It's nothing special, but it will be out this summer, and it will launch the new DC universe.
Cool.
I'm interested to see Peacemaker 2, the second season, because I'm getting real nerdy real quick. At the end of the first season, he saw the Justice League, and he saw Ezra Miller and Jason Momoa as the Flash and Aquaman. But this new season of Peacemaker 2 is in the new DC world.
Okay.
So it won't be the same Superman, it won't be the same Flash, it won't be Jason Momoa.
See, I don't even remember that in Peacemaker, but it's
Yeah, it
been a
was
year. Huh?
it was funny because he saved the world, and then suddenly the Justice League shows up, and he's like, "You guys are late," and I think he even cussed at them, and I did your job or something like that, and it was a funny button
Mm,
because it was everybody. It was Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, but they were all in shadow. The only people you see is Ezra Miller and Jason Momoa.
gotcha. Yeah, they'll just recast them if that's what they did. I mean, I don't have a problem recasting if they want to recast them. But hey, I mean,
I mean, he might slide into a different universe, and it's the new one.
yeah,
It's a multiverse
I I did like the Flash when George Clooney shows up at Batman as Batman at the end when they messed with everything. I mean, I
Yeah,
thought the Flash was it was kind of uh fun movie where you had all the Batman show up and so our Batman, the Batman me and you grew up with was in it.
if I was
Like
a betting man, I would say that Jason Momoa is going to play Lobo in the new universe.
that look I could see that.
Yeah,
Why wouldn't I guess I don't know. Why wouldn't he play Aquaman again? Or I guess it really doesn't matter because they flip a coin and they change everything around.
I think they want to establish a new universe. The only problem is they're going to have conflicting Batmans.
Uh-huh.
So I mean, you've got the Robert Pattinson, but that's not part of the new DC.
Gotcha. Well, but then okay, so they've got the new Batman, which is Robert Patterson, but then the Penguin is in that universe. The show
Yeah,
Penguin's in that universe.
yeah,
And it's like they're going to do Batman 2, which they're going to throw Penguin into, and then they're going to
yes,
do Penguin number 2. And it's going to get confusing after a while. But then the Penguin, I guess you would just have to know, okay, this is in this universe, this is in that universe, and they're never going to touch, and they're going to be different.
yeah. Similarly to like Joker was not part of the Robert Pattinson universe. It's not part of any universe before it,
Mhm.
and it's not part of the new DC.
Yeah, I need to see Joker 2. I don't know when that's coming out on video. I
I still need to
saw,
see. I want to see
huh?
Beetlejuice before I see Joker. I really don't care about that Joker universe.
It was a fun movie. It was a good way. Joker, the first Joker was you were basically watching a man lose his mind over 2 hours.
Yeah, I guess my problem with the people saying, "Oh man, it's so awesome. I love the Joker." It's like it's a warning about people who don't have mental health care.
Right.
It's not somebody you're not supposed to walk out of the theater and go, "That's awesome." It's like, "Oh, we really need to start changing mental health issues here in America." That's the message you're supposed to walk out with. So
Right.
that's my
But
hesitation with the movie.
yeah, I mean, you literally it was 2 hours of watching a dude lose his mind and the whole city follow him. Um, but no, Beetlejuice, I think I saw on Max. Whatever, December 6th is when it's going to be
Yes.
on streaming.
Yeah, it'll be out in a week.
Same thing with There's a movie, Fly Me to the Moon, I want to watch, which is them faking the moon landing, which I
Hmm.
love space stuff. I love when they, like real astronaut stuff. And yeah, that looks like it'll be a fun movie, but that'll be out the same time because I was gonna watch it last night. I was gonna put it on and it was like $20. I was like, oh, really? And then they say available for free December 6th. I'm like, I'll wait the week.
Also coming out next week, Skeleton Crew,
On Monday.
Tuesday.
I thought they said Monday. It was coming out a day early.
Oh, was it? It was December 3rd. They move it to December 2nd at like 9 p.m.
Is that
I might have my days mixed up. I'm looking at it. So
December
it is
2nd's
Monday. It
Monday?
is Monday night.
Yeah.
So we should have waited, but I guess the timing is just too close here to
We would have
record
been
at
like
midnight on
recording at
Monday.
midnight if we
Yeah.
waited for Skeleton Crew. Because I heard it's like an hour. It's 2 episodes too, right? It's like two
Yes.
hours or something crazy.
Right.
I
But
guess my wife's going to be mad at me that day because it's time we're going to be staying up late watching Skeleton Crew. Because she's excited. We talked about it last night. She was like, I'm excited for Skeleton Crew.
do you
And
think it's gonna leave with an open ending at the end? Like, or do you think, yeah, easy for me to say. Do you think they'll get home and wrap everything up nicely?
ooh.
Because I bring this up
Mhm.
because there's a rumor this week that Filoni's been told to wrap up season 2 of Ahsoka,
I saw that.
so it won't have a cliffhanger, just in case it falls in the same category as the Acolyte and gets canceled.
I would truthfully rather them wrap everything up and maybe leave one or two, tie up like 90%. Don't leave a 100%. Tie up nine. Don't leave us with like five cliffhangers like the Acolyte did, because all of a sudden, the Acolyte, the last 15 minutes of the Acolyte was the best part of the whole show because
Right.
we're sitting there going, finally, and the show's over.
I would want Ahsoka to wrap up, but leave open anything that will be answered in the movie that Dave Filoni is, as far as I know, still working on writing and
Right. That
directing.
if they're gonna do something like that, I'm fine with it. Give it like wrap it up to where the normal person would be happy with it, but us nerds can go watch the movie and be and find our answers.
Right.
And I think that they've got to walk a fine line with all these shows. Is you've got to make it to where somebody who's goes, oh look, there's a new Star Wars out, they can watch it without having to do any research
Right.
and be okay with it. And
Right.
right, and that's the thing that pissed me off about the Acolyte is everybody's waiting to see Plagueis, and they show him, and the show's over. And I think what they should have done with it is you take that last 15 minutes, stretch it out over 2 episodes, and put a conclusion to it. And I think people would have been a lot happier.
I would have been a lot happier with just a dark side show.
Dude, we've
It's
all been wanting that.
forget the Jedi.
And I think we've all been wanting that. I think you need to have the Jedi. They should do a dark side or a Sith episode or Sith show. Make the Sith the good guy and the Jedi's the bad guy.
Could
It'd be
have.
fun, huh?
Could have.
They could have. I think people would
They
be
did.
down for that.
Right.
Because I mean, you do think Jedi, are they the bad guys when you flip it around? It's because they're the ones stealing children. They're the ones, you know, running the galaxy. So are the Jedi really the bad guys?
Yeah.
It's just like Karate Kid, flip the roles around. Is Johnny the good guy?
No. Johnny Lawrence is not the good guy. Don't forget that the Mid-South Toy Fest is this weekend, so be sure to check Facebook. And by this weekend, I mean the Saturday when this drops. If you listen to this after December 7th, then ignore. You missed it. But I'm sure
And
there'll be one next year, so you can go then.
right, and the Powder Springs toy shows this weekend,
Yes.
and the Conure the 7th. Okay, so the Powder Springs is the 7th, Conyers is the 8th. Before you know it, it'll be Christmas, Jason.
It's right around the corner.
Man,
It is December. It's
It's
December. I'm speaking fourth dimensionally because when this drops, it'll be December, even though we're still recording in November.
Right. Um, I put out my ad. I looked at Mandy Wednesday night. I'm like, or no, Thanksgiving morning. I was like, when can I put out the ad at the inflatable ad at? And she goes, go do it. I've been waiting for you to ask. She's like, it's the Christmas tree that I have rules against because she
Oh,
won't put the Christmas tree up till after Thanksgiving, which
oh,
I guess that's what we're gonna do this weekend. Um, and I put it up, and it's so tall and so big that it was too windy on Thanksgiving. I had to put it down, like deflate it, so it's sitting in my front yard, and I haven't reflated it yet or turned it back on because it's loud. It's
hmm
like you listen to that and you're like, I wonder how much energy that's sucking up. But none of my other inflatables worked, so I got to look at them and maybe work on them. I don't know. I've had one inflatable for like 10 years, and it finally gave out.
I wonder if you can order packs to replace that stuff.
I guess you could. I would think you could, but then you're at the point. It's like, what's the cost difference? Or is it just cheaper to go buy a new inflatable at that point?
If you're emotionally attached to it, then it's worth it.
Yeah, because I had the C3PO and R2D2, them saying "droid to the world."
Yeah.
I had that one for a while, and that'd be cool to get that one up and running again. I'm sure I could probably just spray some WD-40 on them and get the fan loosened up, but
Yeah.
I guess we'll see.
Hasbro did release the Obi-Wan Kenobi and 212th Clone Trooper 2-pack. It's Black Series. It's $44.99. They're both repaints, and it's like, okay, enough. I'm not
Come
into
on,
Black Series, but if you are, if you, the listener, are, then there you go.
more repaints, man. Come on, bring it on, Hasbro.
And then finally, the Force Awakens trailer turned 10 years old this week. We've been living 10 years with the new Disney stuff.
Yeah, I want my emotions to go back to that 10 years ago. Because I remember I was at my wife's grandparents' house and they had crappy Wi-Fi because they're up in the mountains. And I'm waiting for this thing to download, and you're watching it, and it keeps buffering because the Wi-Fi sucks, and I gotta see new Star Wars. And then you see Han and Chewie show up. But first, you see the Falcon, and the tears start welling. You're like, there's the Falcon. Yes, I'm going to see the Falcon. And then you see Han and Chewie show up and go, Chewie, we're home. And then it fade to black. And where's that Star Wars again? It's like you had everybody in the palm of your hand waiting for new Star Wars content, and it just fell flat. I mean, because you were able to watch from Force Awakens to what Rise of Skywalker to Last Jedi, the crowds just die because you had a whatever. What was it? 2 months? Did it come out in December or did it come out in May? When did Force
The Force
Awakens?
Awakens?
Yeah,
That
did it
came
come?
out Christmas.
So it came. So we had a month of waiting.
Wait, was it May? Rogue. I think it was Christmas because it was a year later that Rogue One came out in Christmas.
Okay,
Yes.
so you had or whatever 2 months of waiting, and the crowds. I mean, nowadays you don't need to show up early for a movie because you have your stuff pre-picked, and it was like that 10 years ago. And people were waiting. I remember people lining up an hour early just to be in the hype. And I did it for Force Awaken or whatever, Last Jedi. And then there was like 5 people waiting. And then when for Rise of Skywalker, there was nobody waiting. And it's like, where is that? Why don't we
Mhm.
have that anymore? And I would like to hear from Lucasfilm or whatever Disney, what happened? Why don't we have that? I don't know what the answer is, but I mean, because they got us. And I was thinking about this from our last conversation when we were talking about the TV shows. Do you remember when we first thought we saw Boba Fett on Mandalorian?
Yes.
Do you remember that feeling?
Yes.
I couldn't drive to work. I was so excited.
I
I
wasn't
was
that
like,
excited.
huh? Well, you know what I mean? I drove to work, but you know what? You were thinking about that for hours. That was the only thing you thought about all day was like Boba Fett's back. And you
Yeah.
didn't even 100% know it was Boba Fett.
I was more excited when Luke Skywalker returned on The Mandalorian, if I'm being honest.
Okay.
But still, same feeling, I would suspect. I was in Brooklyn. We went to New York City for Thanksgiving 10 years ago and walked outside and there was a flat tire on the was it a Durango or the mini minivan? Anyways, had a flat tire, took it to a place where they only did repairs. They didn't like install new tires. It was just bring me your tire, we will repair it.
Uh-huh.
And I was on the sidewalk when that trailer dropped. So I remember standing on the sidewalk in Brooklyn watching the Force Awakens trailer on my iPhone.
Right. And
It was a
everybody's
great
like, why is that
trailer.
guy crying?
Great trailer.
It was awesome. I mean, I remember sneaking into movie theaters. Now, I was already in the movie theater, but you knew, hey, this movie, we were watching another movie, and you knew this movie was going to be playing the Force Awakens trailer. So I remember going and watching the Force Awakens trailer and then walking out. My wife was like, where the hell did you go? I was like, I had to watch the Force Awakens trailer.
Yeah, Mark Rusciano posted because I shared it in the Georgia Alliance page, and Mark posted that he just went to the Hunger Games to watch the trailer and he walked out. He didn't even bother watching the Hunger Games.
I've done that too. I mean, because like when Monsters Inc. came out, there was trailers of Star Wars, and I remember going to watch Monsters Inc. just to watch the Star Wars trailers. And this was the prequel. This was the prequel era.
Yeah. So a lot of fond memories around the Force Awakens trailer. There was a lot of hope and renewed energy. The Force literally awoke among fandom and then died a slow death.
It
Trying
really
to stay
did.
positive.
I know
Gabe,
you are. I know you are, but it does. Well, I mean, it's something we need to talk about. I mean, we're already there, and yeah, I don't know what happened to the fandom. I don't know if they just did a crappy job. Uh, it wasn't. I think it wasn't what we were expecting.
it was a
And,
good trailer.
yeah, it was an
I'm
awesome trailer, and I think we've I've said it before, and I'll say it again. They either needed to lean all in with Han, Luke, and Leia, or they needed to pull them out, and they did neither. They either needed to recast them and lean hard into it, and this is the new stuff, or just be like, yeah, they're gone, and we're gonna do our own thing. And they did the we got to give people just a little bit of nostalgia to keep them coming back, and they did a crap job with it.
I did like BB-8. I thought that was a
Yeah.
cool design in a droid. And it goes back to one of the original drawings that they made for the original movie.
Mm-hmm.
And they just resurrected that for The Force Awakens. And I do remember the blitz of all the BB-8s in the toy stores and Target. Everything was BB-8. BB-8 this, BB-8 that.
Yeah.
Until Grogu came. And it's Grogu this, Grogu that. And he's kind of taken over. It's kind of quieted a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
but there's really nothing new. It was BB-8, then it was Grogu, and nothing's really taken over the pop culture like Grogu did.
Right. There was that. So you saw BB-8 for the first time, and you saw Ray for the first time. And then those
Kylo
people.
Ren.
Oh yeah, I was getting there. That
Yeah.
those BB-8. You already started seeing like people getting BB-8 tattoos. You saw people getting uh Ray tattoos, and then you see Kylo Ren on that lightsaber, and you're just like, what is that lightsaber? You see the cross bars on it, and you're like, I've never seen that in a lightsaber before, and that lightsaber's not right. Something's wrong with that lightsaber because it just was unstable.
Mm-hmm.
And then you started seeing the memes of that lightsaber. People were putting stuff like they put a Hanukkah candle,
A
the
menorah.
eight nights, huh?
The menorah.
The menorah, yeah. People would put the menorah on it, and they do a cross, and they do all this other stuff, and it was like there was a lot of memes of that at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that way it was like people were picking it apart, and you had that one. There was a priest that was picking it apart. Had for a minute he had his 15 minutes of fame on Instagram or whatever. But I mean, this was you know the start of social media too. 10 years ago, um, it was just It was just an awesome, I don't know, awesome time and an awesome feeling. And, because you were like, Star Wars is back and we're getting our heroes back. And that, like I said, they fell flat on the face.
Trying to be positive.
Yes, I'm trying to
You
be
know,
positive. I got my shelf moved downstairs if you want to talk positive.
well, I was going to
Installed.
talk positive Force Awakens stuff. I wasn't going to
Okay, let's talk
complain.
positive Force Awakens. I enjoyed the movie Force Awakens. I enjoyed the trailer. I enjoyed being back in Star Wars. But then I thought it was a carbon copy of A New Hope. But
Mm.
anywho, talk positive, Jason. Go, 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 go.
I don't know anymore. Now I'm under pressure and I don't want to. It was good. It was an exciting time. A
Yes.
lot of positivity and a lot of excitement over that movie. And I think the movie delivered. I think there was a lot of energy. I just wish it wasn't a remake, but it, it, it had a lot of promise.
Yes, it did.
But and then what else was I going to talk about? I don't remember. Have you been following so the Ghost is coming in the next couple weeks,
Yes.
allegedly. Have you been following what happened with I think it was NECA and
No.
the turtle layer?
Nuh-uh.
So I heard this on the internet. So NECA was making a playset, a turtle layer, and they were building out pieces so you could, if you wanted to, was kind of like a Kickstarter or pre-order, but they only made the number that they received in the order. So it's not
Mhm.
like they ordered 20,000 and then just put it up for sale. They made, if they got 10,000 people pre-ordering, then they made 10,000. But it's Donatello's lab,
Uh-huh.
and they accidentally sent two to some people and then none to others.
Uh-oh.
And then NECA kind of they started emailing people and were like, you really should send us this back because it belongs to someone else. And obviously people aren't sending it back. So they tried sending it saying, we'll give you $100 in future credit if you send it back. And people aren't sending it back. And then NECA at one point sent out an email saying, if you don't send it back, we're just going to charge you for that second one, which I'm not sure they can legally do that.
I
They
don't
made the
know.
mistake,
Right.
but I don't know. It just seems like a cluster. And it's like, I'm glad that's not Hasbro.
I mean, what's the piece worth?
I don't know. It's got to be worth about $100 because it's a playset, and playsets these days don't go for $20 anymore. So
Right. Because it's like when it's the same thing like when your bank puts money in your account or whatever. I mean, you're not people because people will go out and spend that money and then guess what? You got to pay it back.
right,
Um, I would have taken the $100. I mean, I don't know, because then you're like, well, I could sell it and maybe make $200. And I could see them just telling people, hey, we're going to charge you for this, and kind of being they able to get away with it, but why don't you just make more? You know,
yeah,
you messed up, especially if they were packaged two in a case, because I have that from Amazon happen sometimes where you order something and you order one and they send you a case of it.
yes,
And if they were packaged two to a case, you get somebody that's not paying attention and they just slap a label on it and ship it.
right.
Uh, that sucks. That really sucks
It
for
does.
NECA. But yeah, you think people would be a little bit more receptive or a little bit more, let me help this person out or let me help that guy out. But they may be, you know, just not give a crap because I don't know if NECA, a lot of people don't care about big businesses, and they're like, I got one over on them and I'm going to run with it.
So yeah, that's still ongoing. There's no resolution, but I thought it was just interesting that it was like a Has Lab adjacent. It was NECA's version of that, and there's mix-ups going on.
Right.
The other thing I
And
wanted to, oh, go ahead.
no, and you were saying that, okay, so they got, let's say they didn't have a goal, but they would just, if I got 10,000 of them, I shipped them. If I got 10,000 orders of it, I shipped. I mean, do you think if HasLab would do something like that, it would be more successful?
No, I think you'll have the same problem. I think people would just keep it in And just say, no, you sent it to me. It's mine now. It's
No, 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 no,
mine.
no, 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 no. I'm not talking about, I'm talking instead of just saying, okay, not setting a goal. They're just like, we have 2 months to sell this thing, and however many we get, we sell.
Yeah. I
Because
think
even,
that's probably the way that some of these companies are going to go in the future, so they don't have to dump
because
things in ollies.
I mean, even I just pulled up Hasbro Pulse, and well, they're only 200 away with 2 days left, 2.5 days left on the Echo, and they did it
Echo.
again. Why does HasLab do this? You end stuff on a holiday weekend.
I don't know. I don't know why do it at the Christmas time, because it's like a big chunk of money. Why not do it in the summer?
Right. Yeah, because they did that for the Ghost. They ended the Ghost either Labor Day or it was Labor Day weekend. Well, it was what a Memorial Day or something. They ended the Ghost over a holiday weekend, and then they're doing the same thing on their Echo Mobile. Let's
What was
end
it?
it on a holiday weekend
The
where
Rancor was the
nobody's paying
same.
attention, huh?
The Rancor was the same thing. About it was about this time, and they had three competing HasLabs at Christmas time, and it's like the worst time to launch one of these suckers.
Yeah. Well, maybe with Patrick being gone, they'll fix this.
The other thing I wanted to talk about was special collector's items. And now I'm really wondering if companies are making things just to sell to scalpers because they know they'll buy them and try to flip them. Like it's not a collectible. It is, but it's not something you. So I'm specifically talking about the Alien Romulus VHS.
Okay.
No one's made a VHS in over 20 years.
Right.
And so this is a working VHS. It's dated technology. It very few people have a VHS player anymore. They're selling this thing for $60.
What?
It was tough to get a hold of, and now people are flipping it, for $100, $150, $200. And I'm just sitting there like, this is just bait for people just to buy because we said it's collectible. This is like baiting on nostalgia.
It is. You've got two different issues, I think, here. Um, the VHS part I kind of get because cassette tapes are making a comeback. Vinyl's got a big comeback, and that's been like that for a few years. But now you got cassette tapes making a comeback. So I mean, I can see them going one step further with the VHS, but charging $60 for it. Did it come with anything special? It was just a VHS.
It was just a collectible VHS. It's playable. You could put it in a VCR and watch Alien Romulus if you wanted to.
That's ridiculous. And the only reason I don't collect vinyl is because it's $40 per vinyl, and I don't want to spend. Number one, I've got too much other stuff that I collect, and I don't want to get into vinyl. But I'd love to have a record player, but I'm not gonna pay $40 for a vinyl that I can only
Mhm.
listen to on my record player.
Right.
Um, although some pieces I do, I'm not gonna get there's some albums I'll buy, but not all of them. Uh, I'm contradicting myself. I just thought
So
about that.
so that
Uh,
was the first issue. What was your second issue with it?
is the if something says collectible, it's not going to be collectible unless I guess, how many did they release?
I don't know. I don't have those numbers. I just know that it was tough to get,
Yeah.
and people did buy it, but now they're flipping it, and I'm just like, was this made just to get that group of people who will flip it because we know that it's a guaranteed sell because we said it's collectible, and we'll make it so that it's in demand and people will just buy it.
It's like that with a lot of companies because my wife does collects the Day of the Dead Barbies, and they'll do that. They'll do like a Ken and a Barbie that's normal release, and then they'll do a special Barbie that's like for their fan club. And number one, then you got to buy ticket. You got to buy a membership of like $10 a year, which it's not $10 a year is not a big deal, but me paying $10 just so I can buy this piece, have the opportunity to buy the piece is ridiculous. And then it sells out in seconds. And then
Mhm.
that one, it's $100 Barbie, and they're selling it for $200-$300. So I could see people doing that because they know it's going to be collectible. They know it's going to sell out. I think it's
Yeah, I mean it's Barbie. Barbie's got a built-in collector community.
right.
But there's nothing like VHS has been dead for 20 years. I mean, what's next? 8-track? Uh
Probably.
uh Betamax, like Laserdisc? And what do I don't know. I'm not trying to complain. I'm just questioning the practice
Oh,
of nostalgia baiting.
I
Like,
think it is because you do have a lot of. I know I've movies I liked. If I'm at Goodwill, I look for the VHS. Just well, number one, they're a couple of bucks. But it's just fun to have a VHS copy of that movie. I'm never going to watch it because number one, I'm scared. Number one, I don't have a VCR. Number two, I'd be scared for it to break. Um,
it's like Green Day just released how long has it been, Dookie? 20 years?
yeah, it's. I think so.
They're releasing it, but only in dated formats. So like you could get the Game Boy version and plug it into a Game Boy and listen to the 8-bit version of Dookie that way.
Wow.
It's just it's weird. It's a weird time. It's a weird time to
Yeah,
be nostalgia baiting like that.
but I've also seen it in video games. That video games have re-released versions, done versions like that. And I think it's just catching up to normal to video media
Yeah,
because it's been in the audio for a minute, and I've got a couple of video games that they I don't know what company they did it, but they did it. They did a NES cartridge of Empire Strikes Back, I believe, and they carded it.
yeah,
And I have one just because it's a cool. Well, then Mandy bought it for me because she thought it was cool, and it's like a see-through case. It's an updated version of a NES cartridge, but it's a cool piece to put on your mantle. And I'm never gonna play it because I number one I don't have a 8-bit NES. Uh, but you do see a lot of those. It's just a nostalgic time. I guess people are wanting that again.
maybe.
I know I
Um,
want it. There's. I'm sorry, but when I can watch something on streaming for free, I'm going to watch it on streaming for free versus going buy a hard copy of it.
and when you mean by free, you're meaning like you pay every month, right?
Yes,
You're not
I pay.
pirating
No, I don't
Netflix.
pirate stuff.
Just disclaimer, legal disclaimer.
Legal disclaimer, I am paying. We do talk about that every now and again. Because we got rid of cable because it got too expensive, and then you got to buy all these streaming platforms.
Yeah. Um,
And then you still have to keep local cable if you want to watch news or something. Just in case something happens, you got to keep local cable, which is like 10 or 15 bucks a month.
well, that might start changing with the whole Netflix and the Mike Tyson fight because that was live TV
Uh-huh.
and they pulled in 60 million viewers.
Yeah.
So it was the first time there was live TV on Netflix, and so that just and they're going to do NFL games, which they need to start improving their equipment because it was kept buffering out for people. And if you're going to show an NFL game, dude, you better get your crap together because that's not going to fly.
Right. Well, that's what I was gonna say. I was like, did you try watching the Mike Tyson fight? It was so aggravating. I went to bed.
But 60 million people did tune in for it,
Yeah.
and so and who knows, things might be changing. Like Disney's going to have, like I said a couple weeks ago, that always on channel where you can just turn it on and you watch what they're already playing for you.
Yeah.
So
I do miss that where you could just put it on a channel and whatever was on was on. Like, uh, you turn to Comedy Central and there's a 4-hour block of The Office, and you just park it on Comedy Central for 4 hours, and you don't feel like you have to sit there and watch every minute. It's just in the background.
yeah,
I miss that.
it will be funny if streaming eventually becomes what cable used to be.
Yeah.
It's just broken because I mean, the History Channel plays Ancient Aliens more often than it does, topical shows for history.
Yeah.
And over time, people have learned that, a documentary about Rome isn't going to sell as much as some dude talking about how did they move that rock?
Aliens.
Right.
I don't have enough hair.
Aliens, man. Aliens. But that's all I had to talk about topic wise. Did you have anything else you wanted to include?
I don't think so.
I'm
There's
excited.
nothing,
I'm
huh?
excited about Skeleton Crew.
Oh, wow.
They did release their first clip this week, and it's like if Suburbia wasn't Star Wars, this is what it would look like.
Yeah.
I'm still struggling with the juxtaposition. Juxtaposition, is that the right word? The
You're the
combination,
English scholar, man.
the combination of Star Wars and just a regular, normal human Earthling suburb.
Yeah.
The mixture of those two, it's like, yeah, that works, but that feels too much like home.
Well, I
But I,
mean, you would think they would have to have something like that somewhere in Star Wars.
yeah, I mean, I went back to Luke Skywalker being a farmer. I mean, that felt foreign to me because I'm not a farmer, but I'd be very curious to see what a farmer thought, in the early 70s about that.
Mhm.
Did they look at that and say, this looks too much like my life? I'm in the middle of nowhere in the cornfields and
I just
wishing that I
want
could leave.
I just want some to go to Tashi Station to get some power converters.
Ah,
Eh.
yeah, but
Yeah, it
so
could be they somebody and a kid that's wanting to go to the army or want to get out and no, I need you for one more harvest.
I heard this
So
week, sorry, you brought it up real quick and we can get back to Skeleton Crew. The reason he wanted to go to Tashi Station to pick up his power converters was because his T-16 Skyhopper wasn't working.
right.
And so that's why he wanted to go to Tashi Station, was to fix his T-16.
Hmm.
That's the first time I ever heard of that.
That he was, yeah. I mean, because it's sitting in the background broken.
Right. But that's why.
Yeah, because he broke it because he was shooting womp rats.
Right.
And then they give him $1 billion aircraft. Here you go, kid.
But I have heard, sorry, getting back to Skeleton Crew now. I have heard a lot of people cautiously optimistic about the show,
Yes.
and I really hope it delivers. Really, really do. I hope it resonates with people and I hope they like it. It does have in that one clip that I saw where the kid misses his bus and he's got to get to school because he's taking a test, and it's got a lot of Stranger Things ET vibes going on.
Good. I'll have to find that clip because I haven't seen
Nostalgia
it.
baiting again. Sorry.
No, I mean that's what I think they doing. I'm down for it because like I told my wife and she like gawked at it. I'm like, this has to save Star Wars. And she was just like, what do you mean? I said, this is it, we've got to this show has got to hit to save streaming Star Wars or Star Wars streaming movie shows.
Um, so I think Skeleton Crew might resonate with people, which
Yeah.
will take us to February. And then Andor will come out a month and a half later. And I think, Andor wasn't the huge hit that it was at the start, but I do think that people have gotten into it since then because of word of mouth and everyone saying this is really, really good. This is the best thing on Disney Plus.
Uh-huh.
And I do think that the second season will deliver, which will take us out to it's 12 episodes. So June, July-ish. I just worry because then if there's some momentum there, will that be enough to sustain Star Wars up until May of 2026 when The Mandalorian comes out? Will, fandom sort of phase away? Or will, when Mando comes out, there's still a good taste on their tongue because they enjoyed those last two shows,
Mm-hmm.
that fandom will be in a better place and they'll be more um, likely to embrace the movie?
I hope so. I mean, I am that really scares me that there's that big of a gap between Andor and the movie. Oh,
And well, and to be fair, like they could drop a surprise show and say coming Christmas, like they did with Book of Boba Fett. I don't know if that's going to happen, but there's that
yeah.
possibility that between April and May, there's going to be some unannounced, and I mean April 2025, May 2026. There's going to be some unannounced project that'll be
Right.
dropped.
Hello, my friends.
Hello, my friends. How are you?
That would be. I, I I think Skeleton Crew could be setting something up for that because it does have the feel of getting the Star Wars we always wanted, or at least the start of it. I hope they just don't tease it and don't go anywhere with it. And when I say Star Wars we always wanted, we wanted to see the bad guys.
Yes.
We want to see evil Star Wars, not evil dirty, the back, the underbelly of Star Wars. We want to see that because we got a taste of it in Clone Wars when Ahsoka was underneath Coruscant on like the sub levels of Coruscant. And what people don't realize is Coruscant is hundreds of levels built on top of each other. You know, what we see in the movies of Coruscant is just the tip of the iceberg. Legitimate, right. Because there's people that have lived on Coruscant that have never seen the sun because they're living underground basically.
Yeah.
And I'd love to see that. I want to see that because it's exploring some of the books and like I said, a little bit in Clone Wars.
It would be cool to see that George Lucas TV show Underworlds.
Yeah.
I think probably a lot of new canon has been negated by it. Mm-hmm. So it's not like they can do it verbatim or pull out the script and just shoot it because things probably conflict now. But it would be cool to go back and see some of that stuff.
Right. And there was something called like level something but I think it was Underworlds, but I'm also maybe getting confused with the band, but I could have sworn I saw something that was set, and it may be Underworld, like I said, that was set like that in the Coruscant.
Yeah.
Like Underworld of Coruscant. But maybe it's the same thing, just two different names.
Just got an excitement thought. Did you ever see the test footage for the show, George Lucas's show?
No. I might have.
It's on YouTube.
Okay.
I'll send it to you. It's just basically people and stormtroopers on Coruscant just walking around.
Okay.
Just trying to shoot and see if it's possible to do it on budget.
That'd be awesome. It would have been awesome.
Okay. Anything else?
I don't think so. We want Underworld. Damn it.
Yes. Give us more Star Wars. And thank you for listening to the Smugglers Galaxy podcast. If you could, please leave a like and a five-star review of the show anywhere you listen to podcasts. It really helps us out and points people to our show. You can follow us on social media. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Send us an email or message us. We love feedback. We love to make you part of the show. Our email address is smugglersgalaxy@gmail.com. Thank you to Alfonso Riviera for the Smugglers Galaxy logo. And thank you to Levi Waterhouse for the music. People, collect for the love of it. Hashtag vote with your wallet. Sabine will be on next week. Pass on what you've learned. Be a positive force in the collecting community. This is the way.
This is the way.
Skeleton Crew will be on next week.
Yes. And we have our next 8 weeks of shows planned out for us.
Whoop. This is 7 though, because they doubled up the first one.
Oh, well, 7.
I don't know. I'm asking.
I don't know. I haven't seen I haven't paid attention.
Okay.
I like going into things blind because it ruins. If I do too much research, it ruins it for me.
If I go in things blind, I miss the whole show.